Strap yourselves in, we've got a very busy week and not a lot of time to get through it, so let's crack on with some gaming news. Welcome back to the news show, and this week we do indeed have quite a lot of things to get through. We've had a few slow weeks, but now it's picking up before E3, so woohoo! We are starting with semi-film, semi-game news. The Resident Evil film franchise, which is generally considered to be average or slightly below average in my mind, is getting a reboot. A mere 6 months after the final chapter got released to probably a middling reception, I should imagine, they have announced they're going to reboot it. In all likelihood, the guy Paul W.S. Anderson, who directed all 7 films, will not be returning because he is caught up with doing the Monster Hunter series that's due to be released next year. And it is also unclear whether Mila Jovovich will be coming back in any way, shape or form, whether they're going to soft reboot it or whether it's going to be a straight, hard, let's start this again completely reboot in the kin of Resident Evil 4 or Resident Evil 7, the games. As someone who has watched most of the Resident Evil films, I skimmed through the the one before the last one. I sort of skimmed through that because I didn't care, and I have not watched the most recent one. I am very apathetic towards this. I am not in any particular... I'm not excited. I don't care. This franchise, I don't know why it existed in the first place, and we're kind of stuck with it because they're rebooting it again. Fabulous. Moving on. Lego Worlds. That's a game. That's a very fun game, which I did a Let's Play of that I was quite proud of, which you can watch on my channel. I might put a card in. Ooh, get all fancy with it all. The game, I complained at the time when it was launched, and I did a video when it was launched out of early access, that is, that they'd gotten rid of the sandbox mode and just added an adventure mode in that became a sandbox later on. Lego have addressed that and actually added a sandbox mode to the game. The sandbox mode itself will have no tutorials whatsoever, and almost, bear in mind that says almost, everything will be unlocked completely from the start, with the exception of a few very rare items which you can only find and unlock in the adventure mode, whatever they're calling the campaign. So basically they're recommending, if you're a new player to this game and you don't know what you're doing, go and play the adventure mode and deal with that, and then come back and do the sandbox. But if you already know the game, you can do the sandbox and you'll have basically everything unlocked for you, and you can play it almost exactly like you played it in early access. So that's quite a positive thing, actually. I approve of this wholeheartedly because you don't have to go through the whole slog of going through the adventure just to get to a nice large map sandbox type thing. Also, there's a Switch version of it coming out fairly soon. It's in the pipeline as far as I'm aware, but it's out on everything and it's going to be out on Switch soon, so cool. Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that was scheduled for release in autumn of this year, has been pushed back to 2018. A move that I completely understand because they released 6 or so screenshots, which I will put on screen in front of me while I'm talking, and oh my lord, do they look so good! This game looks immensely pretty. I cannot believe how brilliant they have made this look and what they're using. I don't care, it's fabulous. It's been pushed back to 2018, and based on those screenshots, I can completely understand why they want this world to look and feel as real and amazing as they can make it. They are really trying to push the boundaries by the looks of it. Just like GTA 5 did at the end of the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 life cycle, I'm hoping that this will do the same with the Xbox One and the PS4. And please, the PC? Like, just please, make a PC version. Please. In Nintendo-related news, mostly positive actually at this point, which makes a change, Monster Hunter is getting a game on the Switch. It is called Monster Hunter XX, and it is a sequel of sorts to Monster Hunter X, which came out on the 3DS in Japan only on March this year? Yes, March. Yes, that thing. It was released on 3DS in March, and now it is getting a sequel of sorts. Yeah, just a sequel follow-up kind of thing. And it will be released some point later on this year on the Switch, which will be quite interesting. No words as of yet as to whether this game will be localized in the Western regions, but I really hope so, because the Monster Hunter series as a whole is generally quite well received even over in the West. So I think a Monster Hunter game on the Switch would be quite interesting to see. I hope they do it well, and I hope they bring it over here. Sticking with Nintendo news, there's a new Pokemon mobile game out, which I might do a sort of little discussion video on, maybe something like that, and it's called Magikarp Jump. So those of you who don't know, Magikarp is this sort of useless Pokemon. It looks like this, and it doesn't do much in the games. It's pretty useless in the main series, but it evolves into Gyarados, which looks like this, and is actually pretty damn beastie. Another sort of not quite as well-known fact about Magikarp in the lore of the games is that it can jump incredibly high. In Fire Red, or one of the particular Pokédex entries that I will put up on the screen here, says that it can jump as high as a mountain, which is pretty impressive, to be honest. It's a fish and it can jump that high, and that's basically what this game is about. I have played the game for a bit and I have my own opinions, but I won't go into that here, because the bit of news that I'm going to talk about is the fact that there is a hard limit on the microtransactions within the game. So yes, this game is a freemium game, free to play, and you can pay to get the currency, because of course you can, and I'm sort of getting to the point where I'm feeling I would need to buy to speed up the game, and I'm not going to, obviously, but I feel that right now, if I wanted to speed up the game, it would be quite useful to do that. But if you spend more than, I think it's $80, so if you buy more than, the only thing you can buy in the game is diamonds, the sort of premium currency, but if you buy more than you can only buy, let's get it right. Let's do that thing first. You can only buy up to 5,000 of these diamonds, and once you've reached that, that is completely, you can't buy any more on that Google account, that iTunes account, whatever. It will just lock you out. You can exit the game and re-download it if you like, but all of that is there, that's done, and that's all you can spend on that account. This is a very good move. I mean, it's not perfect because it's still a bit too high for my liking. I'd say probably make it $30. Although Pokemon Picross, however you want to pronounce it, did also have this hard limit, apparently. I've heard, I don't know for certain, but I've heard this, and that was at a more reasonable €50, which is about £40 or $60. This is, again, as I say, it's a very good move. It's not a perfect move, but it's a really good start to curb these free-to-play games, and I'm really hoping other companies will follow this example, and it will go down, and eventually there'll be a sort of nice limit as to what you can spend on these games, because you see it all the time, and they're actually the people who spend all these thousands and thousands of dollars and pounds on these free-to-play games are referred to as whales in the industry, because they just spend so much money, and they're just big fish to catch, and I really don't like that. It's not a nice term, and I'm not a fan of all of the free-to-play games that just take advantage of consumers. And this, while it's not perfect, is a very good step to addressing it. In a more funny Nintendo story, Pokemon Go is now actively punishing players who use a tracking app. The tracking apps are used to spoof locations and to sort of find things across the globe where you're not, so you don't necessarily have to travel, which to some is a very good thing, because that means they don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds flying over to Japan or whatever just to catch their exclusive Pokemon, or to go to America or to the UK or wherever else, because that's a lot of money just for a little digital Pokemon. However, Nintendo and Niantic have said that this sort of It's not the way the game was meant to be played, and they're not fans, and they think people will play less, and it probably means they'll get less money. That's probably the reason. They are now actively punishing people who use these tracking apps by only letting them find very common Pokemon like Pidgeys or Geodudes instead of the more rare things like Kabutos and other similar things. This was actually tested by Eurogamer, and there's screenshots that I will put up on the screen. Thank you, Eurogamer, for those screenshots. I will credit you and whatever and da-da-da. This seems pretty legit. I've got no reason to see why this isn't a thing. And as to whether or not I think it's right, I honestly don't know. If you think using tracking apps is a good thing, then you should probably be against this. If you think using tracking apps is a bad thing, then you should be for this measure. I don't particularly care either way, so that's just a thing that I wanted to put out there. Another quick little thing, and Devolver Digital, this is something I forgot to mention last week, will have an E3 conference. Now, Devolver Digital make lots of fun little games, or they publish them at least. They publish loads of different games from different developers, and they are amazing. They are one of the best publishers out there at the moment, and I really recommend you go and check out the games that they've published because they've done some really great things. So yeah, them having an E3 conference is really interesting to me. I really can't wait to see what they're going to be showing off there. And for those of you who are interested, I'm considering doing an E3 live stream with a few friends on a sort of thing that I can't talk about at the moment, but if that happens, I will be sure to broadcast it out and let people know. And if that sounds of interest to you, an E3 related stream, please do come and check it out when it comes on. One slight water spillage later, and moving on. Game, the retail store that I was very critical of, I think it was last week in the news, has done a good thing. In some stores at Game, there is a thing called the... what is it? It is called the Belong Arenas. And those Belong Arenas are basically things where you can look at games and new games and play them and try them out. And that's available in some stores, and I think you have to pay a fee to get into them. They are now hiring these out for stag do's, hen do's, and birthday parties. As somebody who is an avid gamer, you might be able to tell because I'm doing a gaming news show, this is a really good move. I'm very surprised that Game are doing something so consumer friendly. This is a really good idea. I would genuinely have birthday parties like this where we would go to a game store and we could play games, we could bring our own cake and they'll let you do that. And there's also there'd be a techie on hand apparently who will help you out, get all the games set up, he'll help you with doing tournaments of things. I'm genuinely thrilled that this is now a thing. Gaming parties sounds fun to me, and I don't have to own all the games to do it, so that's fabulous. Hopefully it won't be too expensive. I can imagine it, if it were me, and I were pricing it, and I were trying to be consumer friendly about it, I would charge probably about £100 for, say, a few hours worth. That sounds about fair to me, because you can get at least one a day. If you get like a couple a week, you've paid off most of the hardware and whatever within a matter of, let's say, weeks. You've paid off everything and you're good and you're just making money. That's a really good idea. And I really hope that that works and takes off. It's currently only available in 11 of the game stores around the UK. So if you live abroad, sorry, this isn't going to help you at all. There are 11 stores that are doing this deal at the moment because they're the only 11 that are Game Belong stores. So keep an eye out for it, and I hope it spreads. I hope it becomes more prevalent in the future. Netflix's series on Castlevania that I presumed in my new show when I announced it would be an anime is going to be an anime. Not saying I called it, but I called it. I called it. The trailer has been released not too long ago, just this week, and my lord does it look pretty. It's a very well animated show by the look of it. It's following Richter, the protagonist of the original game, and I'm looking forward to it. I really want it to be good. I know that some Western animes have a bit of hit and miss, but this looks good. Netflix, as I say, tend to produce quite reliably good content, apart from Iron Fist. It's going to be released on July the 7th in the US, in all the other American territories, and in the UK. So Hopefully that means it'll be in the rest of Europe and hopefully along the rest of the world fairly soon after, but I'm really looking forward to this. It looks amazing and I really hope that it goes very well. In some less fun news, IO Interactive, the company Square Enix put up for sale only a week or two ago, have announced that they're going to have some layoffs. Ooh, it's not going well. We were really hoping that a buyer would be found very soon. We were hoping someone would snap up the name, but that's not happened so far. And yeah, IO have let go of some of their staff. In a statement, they said, "Today at IO, we had to make some changes to our studio, which will allow us to be better equipped for our future adventures. We're sad that great talent and good friends will be leaving the studio. We're doing everything possible to look after everyone affected. Thank you for your support and understanding." Again, I'm just going to say it, this is nothing but bad news. It's really sad, and I feel very sorry for the people affected, and I hope that they get the employment that they need, because they're probably all pretty talented people in the end. And the final piece of news, we have made it. Good lord, there's a lot to talk about this week. Far Cry 5 has been given a launch trailer. We already knew that the game was happening. The logo was released a few weeks ago, and now we know a bit more about the game. Turning away from the previous 2 games, or 2.5 games in the franchise, where you're just sort of plonked in the middle of a country, like just in the middle of nowhere. This is going to be set in very rural America in the Bible Belt. And the antagonists in the game are very conservative, over-the-top, rather murderous-looking Christians. This has already angered some of these gun-toting Christians who, let's be honest, these are the people who call people snowflakes, and they are triggered by this. But I'm not going to get into the politics of it. I personally am a fan of this departure from the series staple now. They have had relatively interesting villains, apart from Far Cry Primal, of course, because the main villain in that was a tiger or a leopard that murdered your family. And these villains, while they do look very interesting as characters, not that we know too much about them, it's different. It's different from the warlord maniac. He's hoping. I like the change in theme, and I really hope they pull it off. I just hope they have less animal bullshit. The game has a marketing deal with Sony, because of course it does, meaning that the PlayStation 4 version will get extra free content. Fabulous. As long as it's not missions, as long as it's just sort of characters or whatever, or something like that. The game itself will launch on all major platforms. Well, not the Switch, but the other 3. PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One in January 2018 is when it's slated to be released. However, of course, with the games industry, this is subject to massive change. Nice little twist on the formula now. Hopefully they're going to keep it twisted and not just do a Ubisoft and make it boring and homogenous and... Oh, don't make another Ubisoft game, please. We've had enough of those. So that's it for the news this week. Quite a long show, quite a lot to talk about. Hopefully that will continue, and yeah, please more news, because, oh lord, we had a big dry patch for a while. So I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please give me a like, and you can subscribe to me here. I do a main series on a Monday and a Friday, which this time is on FTL Faster Than Light, that you can watch here. And I also did a little Let's Play of Kerbal Space Program, which you can watch here. So thanks for watching the news, and if news is all you're interested in, then I will see you next time for some more news.